The July 2023 regular Library Board of Trustees meeting is called to order. First, we typically begin with public comment, but we have no one signed up for public comment today. So we will move ahead to our consent calendar. Is there a motion regarding the consent calendar?
I so move that we accept it as printed. And I second that.
Any discussion or questions regarding the consent calendar? And all those in favor of approving the consent calendar as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the consent calendar passes. Next we have our director's report. Michael.
Pretty short this time, but if you've got any questions, do let me know. So we've been talking a little bit about the facilities and capital improvement grant that was available through the Idaho Commission for Libraries. We did end up applying finally. So it included upgrades to the HVAC system, the teen areas of the library, the study rooms of the library, and the room that houses the Library of Things collection, as well as the Nelson room. And all of these collectively totaled $390,000. We will see how we go. We're going to get that at the end of July. It was very competitive, I can tell you that much. I spoke to a couple of other Idaho directors who had pretty grand plans that looked pretty good. So we'll see how we go. We can only ask. And of course, they don't have to fund all $390,000. They can pick and choose parts of the submission to fund.
And how much money do they have to spend on this round?
I think it's about 3.5 million, somewhere in that ballpark. And they've organized it into 3 tiers of availability. So we're in the highest tier, asking for the most money. And I believe they only had a limited number of those they were going to fund. So we'll see.
So what are the tiers based on?
Just the size of the project, basically.
Oh, okay.
So they wanted to spread it in a way that was just, I don't know, fair, I suppose. So there's big projects, there's medium-sized projects, and then smaller projects. The library's kind of like that. Any other questions on that one? And then just quickly, staff have been busy preparing for the cabin. So we finally have a date for at least an opening ceremony. So that'll be August 24th. The cabin should be installed in the week prior to that, which hopefully gives us a bit of buffer time as well before the opening event. So ribbon cutting ceremony is going to be August 24th at 11 a.m. There's other things we will be upgrading around the children's library. Some of them will be done complete by the time the cabin arrives, others will not. We'll wait for the cabin and then we'll proceed with the other additions that we're going to make. And then what's not in here, but I should have put in here, we did recently have 3 part-time vacancies. We've had a pretty good run without them for a while, but you know, we got hit with 3. Just people moving on to different opportunities. And so we advertised and we interviewed and we've offered the position to 3 candidates. So we should be fully staffed again in the near future.
Is there any update on the outside art project?
Not yet. So we're waiting to get more information from, we're actually asking Architects West again to help us out. Just how feasible is the project? What would it take? So that when the Arts Commission does run the call for artists, it can be very detailed regarding what's required, and then we'll have a better, we'll be in a better place to assess the applications as they come in for feasibility.
And then in the report you emailed, you mentioned a bronze bust of Dr. Ted Fox. Where Where's that going in the library?
Oh, yeah, that was to the foundation,
Oh,
so.
okay, sorry.
The other entity. But
Yes.
I still have that.
That's how I got confused.
So Brian Ross is a local sculptor who I believe did the Louise Shattuck bust that's in the community room. So Pepper Smock, and he kind of came up with the idea of doing a bust of Dr. Fox. So not super familiar with, but I know there's people in the room who are very familiar with Dr. Fox, who was a big library supporter as well. So the bust is done, the bronze bust is done. And so we're going to be putting it next to one of the fireplaces upstairs. So it's got a direct line of sight from the front entrance. And it's also next to this brochure holder that has all of our public health resources.
Nice.
So it kind of ties in a little bit with his career and what he did. So that was an opportunity that just kind of fell in our lap, and the foundation helped facilitate it. And yeah, I believe we're still working on a date and a time, but I think it's going to be August 26th. It'll be delivered, and we'll get a few photos, and it'll be there on display.
I guess I have one other question that'll just fit here. Since you mentioned looking towards the entrance, I noticed last time I was in that there's some construction going on
sure.
right on the balcony that is across from the entrance. What's happening there?
So we had a bunch of shelves there that used to be where our new adult nonfiction was stationed. To me, it's always been a little problematic. That's the main thoroughfare from getting from one end to the library to the other. And when you had shelves there and you had people looking at books and bending over and people trying to get past, it was always a little congested. So we've rearranged the collections a little bit upstairs so that we can now put the new books there next to the study tables in the center of the library. So we have adult fiction and adult nonfiction. And we didn't really have a purpose for those shelves anymore. So it was an opportunity to, and the building maintenance team helped us out with this, remove the shelves. So now it's more just that straight thoroughfare. Hopefully nobody will be bumping into each other or doing a dance to skip around each other. It should control the traffic flow up there.
Nice. Anything else with the director's report? All right. Then let's move on to our other reports, beginning with Kiki Miller, our city council liaison.
I don't have much. We're still going through budget reviews, and we'll be reviewing agreements and contracts coming up in the next couple months. So that's been keeping us very, very busy. I know that a lot of you have seen a lot of road construction happening, and we had hoped that, I'm searching for it, but the streets department said they were attempting to put a map on the site that could tell you approximate dates and times of street closures, because there's so many right now. And I know I get asked a lot, how long is this detour going to take? And so things change day by day, but I would encourage you to check there occasionally, because they were planning on putting not an interactive, but at least some sort of a map to give us an idea of that. And then I'm still doing background work on the housing growth issues. I've got an ADU consolidation regional project going on, and that could be a good one that could happen within the next year. And then a couple of other things in that arena. So just being busy there. Anything for me? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Right. So Lily is not here today, so no report from the student representative, but Friends of the Library.
Yes, the Friends did not meet in June, and the next meeting is next week. I don't have a lot to report, really. They've just been continuing to support summer reading with prizes. That we're running through a lot of kids' prizes right now. They're filling out a lot of logs and doing a lot of reading, which is great. But so the Friends have been gratefully supporting that. Every time we make a request for more prizes, they respond.
Great. And Holly, the Library Foundation.
Yes. We had a great parade on the 4th of July with Reggie and Betty and her grandson and a friend of his rode in the back with mud juice. So they stayed pretty relatively cool on that hot day, so that was a good thing. Cabin dedication, we're trying to help Charlene with all the details on that. We're hoping to have Mudgy there. Our normal person can't be in the costume that day, but we're trying to get our other guy to do that for us so he can join us in that dedication. Our author event, September 14th with William Kent Kruger, another very popular author. Red Moose is working with us to get that event going and getting the word out. That should be a good fundraising event for us. We're working on a couple of grants through the Idaho Humanities Council and United Way, just reporting some new grant opportunities too. So gearing up for all those things too. That's all I've got.
Appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you. I like it. It's good for me.
All right. There is no unfinished business on our agenda, so we will be moving to new business. And the first is an action item on updating the meeting room policy. Is there a motion regarding that?
I move we accept it as adjusted.
And a second?
Second.
Michael, can you please speak to that?
Yes. Okay. Some minor updates to the meeting room policy. This stems from a conversation I had with City Attorney Randy Adams, and he was suggesting, generally speaking, that some of our requirements for the meeting rooms are not, I mean, we could request, but we cannot enforce a limitation on political meetings. So quite often we had, one of the first questions we ask people when they book, the public when they book the meeting rooms is your event a political event endorsing a ballot or a particular candidate? And that generally we don't allow in the meeting rooms. Randy suggested we stop doing that, just again, because it's not really anything we can enforce. It's better to have the meeting rooms open to that kind of discourse than it is to be closed to it. So that's basically all we've really done is, aside from a few minor changes suggested by City Legal, we have removed the Part E, library meeting room shall not be used for the purpose of assisting the campaign for election of any persons to any office or for the promotion or opposition of any ballot issue. And then this request that political forums are acceptable with all sides represented in programs. Basically, we've struck that, so now we're open to having those types of meetings in the rooms. There's also
Can I ask a question on that,
Yeah.
Michael? I'm sorry, and this is oral memory for me on this, and it goes back a number of years ago. But do any of you remember whether that was the reason that was enacted was because there were political rallies happening and then there was opposition on the outside, and it was basically an informational piece rather than an enforce it that you can do it or not do it, because there were people who just needed to be informed that there might be larger crowds. Do you recall, or did Randy say if that was any of the reasoning behind that policy?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Did that happen? Was that a
He
situation?
was even
No,
an attorney.
Randy wasn't, but Randy wasn't, but it was, for some reason, and I'm just going by memory, but I recall that the conversation was not because they wouldn't allow it, it was because it had created other issues.
Yeah. I think Randy did mention if there's a meeting that's going on and it's causing a disruption, it becomes a behavioral issue, which is what our behavior
Different
policy
category.
is
Okay.
for. So yeah, if we get this high level of disruption in the room where people are blocking entrances or walkways, restricting other people's access, then we can address those issues.
Okay.
And we always have the fire and the police departments to deal with the safety factors of blocking passageways, anything that would make it dangerous.
Mhm.
Do we still have the policy that the meetings have to be open to the public? If
Yes.
they, okay.
Yes, yeah.
That's what
They have to be free and open to the public and no commercial activity. Those are the three things we really can enforce, and they've always been there, so we will carry on with that.
Thank you.
I think at one time we had a concern about Aryan nations holding meetings here, and that would
That
bring
was-
demonstrators.
Right, and that's where,
I
in
think
the back of my mind, it was a bunch of different things
Something
around
around
that. But it could apply to any, group, but I kind of recall the conversation around that was because of that. So, but I'd say it was quite a long time ago, 9 years maybe. Yeah.
Well, I think if we can make it less restrictive and more public space for public forums for groups, that's good. We can always change the policy again if we can legally, so that we're in compliance with the law. But I like the changes to make it a little bit more welcoming to groups.
I'm curious right now with the current policy, are the rooms booked pretty steadily? Or-
It's steady in the rooms, yeah. Because of course we also have to fit in library programs, city meetings, it can get pretty busy some days. There are times when we know there's certain days where we get less activity, usually midweek is the busiest period for sure.
It'll be, if we do approve this, it'll be interesting to see if this changes the usage too.
Yeah, we'll always have, it's first come, first serve, and it's a rolling 90 days that the public can book meetings. And then we don't allow for repeat meetings. That's one stipulation that we have. So if say a group expects to have the same room, the same time every month, we cannot accommodate that.
Any other discussion regarding the meeting room policy?
Well, let me ask you a question. Because they can only do it 3 months in advance.
Yes.
So a group could, by good luck, have it.
That's true.
Okay, so there's
Nobody's-
nothing
nobody-
saying you've done it 3 times, you can't do it again.
Right,
Right,
that-
okay.
that's correct, yeah. And I don't think we have anybody who's trying to play the system and do it that way. I think generally speaking, people understand and appreciate that we're trying to accommodate everybody and keep it fair and open.
Then all those in favor of updating the meeting room policy as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting room policy has been updated. Next, we have the library gallery exhibition policy, some updates to that. Can I please get a motion regarding that?
I move that we discuss and pass the library gallery section policy.
I'll second that.
Michael, please speak to this one.
So usually these two policies go hand in hand because it's very much governing public activity within the space. So we have the exhibition spaces. There's a variety of them. The main one is the cork boards up the hallway outside of children's department and the community room. You'll see right now we have some art up on the wall. So it helps with that in terms of rules. And then we have several display cases upstairs, which is open to the public to display memorabilia or various items. I think recently we had a bunch of insects, not live insects, obviously. I forget what you call that particular hobby, but there was a whole variety of different beetles and spiders and really gruesome looking large insects, but the kids loved it. It was a point of interest.
I loved it too.
So those are available to the public, and so this policy governs that procedure and how we do it. And it really doesn't have too many changes, except for Holly was asking, the foundation right now has a lot in its back catalog, a lot of artwork and a lot of photos and things that potentially could be sold to fundraise for the library. And that wasn't really covered in this policy. Generally, we've said that artwork displayed or anything that's on display cannot have a price tag. Cannot be advertised as for sale. So this would change it a little bit to allow exceptions for fundraising activities for the library, the foundation, the Friends, or the city of Coeur d'Alene, if they so choose. It just opens up that possibility. And aside from that, a couple of recommendations from City Legal. So as you know, I always run our pending policies through Randy and his team. So he again picked up on we were blocking religious and partisan political activities in the space, the galleries. That is something he feels we cannot really do. So he left it just as commercial activity.
I don't understand that. As it's worded, it would prohibit campaign brochures. And I would think if we don't have a prohibition of that, we could have a mess on our hands. We could have a lot put down here. So exactly, was there something about the espouse partisan politics that you found objectionable, or is there another way to word that, or am I off base there? I mean, I guess I wouldn't mind advocacy of a partisan view, maybe, but espouse partisan politics sounds like candidates could also, with their campaign, and just the sheer volume of that
I'll have to.
could
Well,
become a problem. Or
Part C there that still says users may not exhibit information
yeah.
about
I
political
forgot about that.
candidates or issues that are currently on the ballot or being heard in the Idaho legislature. So there is some restriction.
And see, I would have allowed the issues that are being heard in the Idaho legislature, I think, but I would have prohibited the political candidates. Issues that are on the ballot, we're going to have, are kind of limited. I don't see that as, we're going to have some important issues on the ballot coming up, but I could see someone wanting to put literature about that up. Just as we would allow them to use the room for an information program on that.
To be fair, we don't, today, we have not received any requests to display political type material, either on the boards or in the display cases. It's not to say this might open it up to possibility in the future, but it's not something we're really dealing with that's causing us an issue as of now.
What I'm seeing in favor of this too is with an artist's work and their artist statement, something could, to that artist, be a very political thing, but maybe the casual viewer wouldn't realize it, or just the opposite, that the artist did not intend for it to be as political as others view it. And so I can see how the policy as it stands now could potentially at some point cause a problem.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't want to be limiting artistic expressions that could be viewed as partisan. I was just thinking of campaign posters.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's no policy that we create that we can't delete.
Yeah, or change
If
or
there's a
alter.
problem, if it becomes so cumbersome, we don't have space for diverse points of view being displayed, and it's getting squeezed out by one particular perspective or something that's not equitable to the community as a whole, well, we might have to meet with Randy and talk about how we can do this so it's the most fair to all the citizens. That's all we're trying to do, right?
Yeah, and then section D that's highlighted is a new section, correct?
Yeah, Randy just suggested this, I mean, these are illegal activities anyway, but he decided it's best to state it, just so that we're ahead of the curve on that one.
And they can be there for 1 month?
Yes, sometimes we make dispensations, especially if we have nothing else lined up. So the artwork that's been out there right now has been up there several
Quite a
months.
while.
And it's simply because we haven't had any other requests to put new materials up. But I believe,
Just taking it down.
yeah,
Majority is down now.
we're about ready for QuarterCon. So a lot of QuarterCon materials will go up here. And then I believe, is the foundation thinking about something?
Yeah, I'm hoping, all that art that we got
Yeah.
from James Poignant. He just donated a whole bunch of paintings and photography and, as few fundraisers that we have, all those things will sit in storage. I was hoping that maybe we could just see if anybody wants to, come and view it and see if they want to buy it just that way rather than through a fundraising event. So haven't gotten that approval from my board as yet, but we're going to talk about it on Wednesday. That's why the policy was kind of brought up to Michael to see if we could sneak in there for doing something a little bit different.
Question.
Okay. So seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of updating the library gallery exhibition policy as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The library gallery exhibition policy is updated as presented. And next under new business, this is not an action item that came from our last meeting that I asked Michael to provide us some information about the partnerships with other libraries due to the confusion I heard from lots of people I spoke with between the community library network and the Coeur d'Alene Public Library, seeing where we do work together and that sort of thing.
Yeah, shall I go through it a little bit? I mean, as you know, we are a city library, we're a city department, and we have our neighbors, the Community Library Network, who are a library district, who it's a different kind of entity. Whereas you were appointed by the mayor and city council, they have an elected board, and then they are very independent in their operations. Whereas we have the support of the city, other city departments, they have to seek their own legal counsel, set up contracts with vendors independently, do all their financial auditing and what have you in-house. There's a lot more to running a library district ultimately. So they're more independent, got some more freedom on that level, but there's a whole lot more to do, I guess. So that's, given that we're kind of surrounded by them, they are our probably our best partners, they're our best friends, if you like. And the main way we cooperate is through the Cooperative Information Network, the CIN, which is this group of 15 libraries regionally who cooperate together. So the main things that we do, we share a integrated library system called Coeur, which manages all of our materials, checking things in, checking things out, cataloging items, tracking items. It manages a lot of the day-to-day operations for each of our libraries. We share a courier system, which allows us, when people log into our shared system, the public log in, they set up an account, log in, and then they can place holds on items, and it can be couriered from one library to the other. And then when those materials get returned, they get couriered back to the owning library. So it allows us a lot of flexibility. It's fantastic service, of course, for our patrons. And then the last thing is probably the largest growing part of our collection are ebooks, the audiobooks. We subscribe to Overdrive, which has the Libby app, and people can download those items onto their devices. So we share that collection together, and that requires a little bit of upkeep from the consortium. And then in terms of active groups within the consortium, and we pull staff from all the libraries to help handle these things that need doing. So there's the system administrative and technical support team. So they very much look at Coeur and how it's operating, and if there's any issues, they try and resolve those. Then we have the Overdrive Libby collection development team. So even though we subscribe to this platform to purchase ebooks and audiobooks, it still requires a couple of staff members to do the selection. So figure out what's popular, what are the items we need to add to the collection, and do the purchasing for that. So we had, oh yeah.
Excuse me, so that's joint.
Yes.
So we don't own any ebooks as a
That is
Coeur d'Alene Public Library.
That is true, yeah. We own it as a consortium.
So if the county library system decided that they didn't want to be a part of CIN, would we have any notice that they were considering that so that we could address the burden that would create?
I believe that, and it's either the joint powers agreement, so we have several agreements as a consortium that all the libraries agree to follow and adhere to. So it's either the joint powers agreement or the operating agreement outlines the process for a library to leave. And I believe it's at least a 6-month process.
Okay.
I think they have to give 6 months notice, and then there's several steps they have to take to be removed from the consortium.
And you have Liberty Lake, I mean, as far west as Liberty Lake. And
Yeah, we have Ponderay County in Washington. So those are the two
Ponderay.
Washington libraries who are joined, and then the rest are all Idaho-based.
they're all right.
Not to put you on the spot, but can you name some more
Why
of
don't I
those?
pull up the website?
Oh, okay.
Or,
And I understand you are chair.
yes, currently. All right, let's go to CIN libraries. We could make this easier on ourselves by listing all of them somewhere. Find a library. So I think this is structured by branch, not necessarily entity.
Right.
But so yeah, we've tried to put a logo where we can to identify the entity. But so there's Athol Library, CLN. Blanchard Library is one of the West Bonner Library District branches. The Bookmobile for CLN is one of the Ponderay County libraries, Kalispell. Clarkia District Library. There's ourselves, Harrison Library with CLN, Hayden Library with CLN, another Ponderay Library, Kellogg Public Library, So quite a few of the Silver Valley libraries are also included, Liberty Lake, Mullen, Newport, Osborne, Pinehurst with CLN, Plummer as its own entity,
Oh.
Post Falls with CLN, Priest Lake is its own entity, Priest River is actually one of the West Bonner libraries. Grafton Library with CLN, Silver Hills Elementary, Spirit Lake with CLN, St. Mary's is independent, and then there's the two Benawat County libraries who are also joined. Wallace Junior Senior High School, and then Wallace Public Library.
Really helps the small libraries have access
Yeah,
to more services for their clientele.
yeah, and we structure the fees according to the size of the library. So we have several metrics that we measure against. So obviously Coeur d'Alene is paying a lot more than say Kellogg for their membership fee.
When you have meetings, are all of the branch libraries of CIN there?
Not all the
Or
branches.
CLN?
Yeah, so generally what happens at our meetings, it's the only voting members are the directors from each entity. So everybody has equal say in that way, but we do, particularly ourselves and CLN, invite a lot of our support staff who are quite critical to the system as a whole. So Christopher, for example, does a lot of, he's part of that support team. He's really watching Coeur and helping everybody in terms of operations. So he does attend the meetings, often Tyler does for us to give a circulation perspective. Melissa is also part of the meetings because she is one of the selectors for Overdrive and Libby. And then who else? Generally that's the crew that we bring along. And then CLN also, as I said, bring along a lot of their support staff, including Janelle Sells, who she's their business manager at CLN. She also doubles as a business manager for the consortium.
So is that the only employee that CIN has, is the business manager?
We don't have any employees. It's all contributed, the staffing, if you like, is all contributed from the members. Okay, so that's CIN. So moving down, so what are we doing with libraries outside of CIN? So some of these are things we do that aren't really part of the consortium. They're just opportunities that we have in front of us to serve our communities and work together doing so. So quite often we have, a good example is the Earth Day celebration that we have in April. We partner up with CLN and they attend their celebration. They bring their big discovery bus that has a lot of STEM activities on board. So this year we had them park in the city lot, and it made the event a whole lot more vibrant. You know, families could go around all of the vendors that we had out on the lawn, and then they could go to the discovery bus and participate in the activities on board. So it really enhanced the event having them there. We also sit on a number of groups together that are looking at regional issues or opportunities. So there's the Idaho STEM ecosystem, and then the Early Learning Coalition Partnership. Then it gets kind of complicated. I mean, between CLN and us as to who does what, it gets a little complicated, but generally speaking, we keep our activities to city limits. And then CLN is more looking at the county, but then because a lot of our city residents use CLN as their library, they do come into Coeur d'Alene on occasion. Their bookmobile comes into Coeur d'Alene to do stops and delivery. And then there's the schools are the other services to schools. So we kind of divvy those up. It's generally speaking, if most of the enrollment of that particular school is from the county, then CLN takes that school on, and if most of the enrollment is from the city, we take that on. So there's a list of schools that we generally go to. So that's Coeur, Bryan, Sorensen, Fern, Winton, and Ramsey, as well as Nexa, the Northwest Expedition Academy, and then Lakes Middle School. And then CLN goes to Dalton, Hayden, Skyway, Atlas regularly, and then Woodland, Canfield Middle Schools. And in the high schools, we kind of share those responsibilities, given the enrollments all over the place. But we try to work together to provide services to schools, particularly outreach. And that's just a way to divvy it up. And it really helps us. You know, we couldn't go to all of the Coeur d'Alene schools on our own. It would really stretch us too far. So having CLN also available to do that is great for us and for obviously the community. And then there's other opportunities as they arise to collaborate on. So a recent example was JD, our communications coordinator, met up with her equivalent there at CLN just to talk about things and how we can jointly advertise and work together to get the message out about library services. Yeah, we do what we can to collaborate when those opportunities come up.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any other new business to be brought before the board?
I would just like to make one comment about CLN, CIN, the whole cloth. The public really appreciates that cooperation, and we don't get complaints about, wait a minute, this book is from Post Falls. You mean I have to go all the way back? No, you don't. You can just, you checked it out here, you can return it here. And people appreciate that immensely. I hope we can continue this going forward, that there is a mindset that we can continue that work. It's really beneficial to the public.
Yeah, it's been around, you know, since the 80s now, this cooperated, you know, CIN and some guys or the another, and it's really just built into how we operate.
Yeah.
It's really inseparable.
So many jurisdictions working together.
However confusing it is to the public.
I know.
If you ever get a chance, CLN needs to change its name.
We have been
That would help
discussing,
so much.
CIN has been discussing some kind of name change. We'd probably still be registered as the Cooperative Information Network, but we could elect to choose another name to operate under. So we have been, something that anchors us geographically, maybe has library in the description would be nice. We're still workshopping that one, see what we can come up with, but it would be beneficial because the public really doesn't understand all the acronyms and who's who and
And community
Well, that's
library
what we do.
network means.
Well, we do nothing.
yeah.
Yeah, I do know, especially that name confusion. That was as people talked to me coming up to the community library network collections and asking, thinking I was on that board, not the, and a lot of the confusion was that they heard CLN and CIN, knew we were part of one, but thought we were part of both. So if there is no further business to come before this meeting, I declare this meeting adjourned, and our next regularly scheduled meeting is August 23rd, 4 p.m., and we will be back in the community room for that. Do I need a motion to adjourn? Yeah, okay, is that, I thought if we just exhausted the agenda, we can adjourn, okay.